Hello everyone, this is In Between Continents. On this channel, from a point where continents collide, I mean Istanbul, I share my thoughts on life and the world. In my second video, we are going to talk about what it's really like to live in Istanbul. I've spent about 40 years of my life here. I only lived Çanakkale for 4 years during my university days. Currently, I reside on the European side and work on the Asian side. Every single day, I commute back and forth between two continents. Every single day, I watch the massive tankers passing through the Bosphorus. Each of these crossings feels like an entire lifetime to me, just like human existence. We too are passing through a strait, and when we finally vanish into the horizon, only a fleeting ripple will remain on the water. Anyway, let's not drag this out. Let's move forward through the topics I have outlined. First, I want to take a brief look at Istanbul's recent history. In the 19th, I was a child in Levant. I was the child of a poor family working to serve the healthy who lived in that neighborhood. Yet I can clearly see how different the definition of poor and rich was back then compared to now. The 19th were probably the golden age of Turkey and Istanbul, above all in terms of freedom. Of course, not everything was perfect, but it was a time when people were simply happier. Purchasing power was better, even for those who considered poor. Consequently, hope for the future was always more tangible. Over time, life grew harsher. The hope people held on to became heavier with each passing day. The real breaking point came with the Gezi Park protests and everything that followed. With hardening rules and a regressing economy, people lost the sense that a future was waiting for them somewhere out there. In other words, the joy of living withered away. One reason Turkish people use social media so excessively today is their realization that they cannot achieve much simply by working. Today, to buy a house in Istanbul, you need to put aside at least 100 entire monthly salaries without spending a single penny on anything else. You may ask what all of this has to do with living in Istanbul. This is the very first thing you need to understand. Of course, there are dozens of different lives and people in Istanbul, but a significant portion of the city is filled with people who know they can build a life through honest labor and are desperately striving to make quick money through alternative shortcuts. You will journey alongside these people on the subway. Naturally, time also brings opportunities to earn various side incomes. Because of this, there are many who live more comfortably, but what happens here is essentially a survival mentality. The future has been buried behind a visible yet unreachable horizon by Istanbul's rising skyscrapers. This is a city where everyone has now chosen to simply live in the moment. That's why concerts and festivals are packed to a serious intensity. Everyone lives just to be there, consume that exact moment, and to share it on their social media. Last summer, I went to a concert, and the person sitting right in front of me recorded the entire show on his phone. He never actually experienced the concert. His entire mind was occupied with the platform where he would post the footage and the view count he will get. Today, Istanbul's crowd is a crowd of people just trying to survive. That's how I see it. So, let's say a job opportunity comes your way in Istanbul and you are at crossroad. Is Istanbul worth living in? Let's address the most fundamental question. The answer is, of course it is. In terms of social life, Istanbul is still an incredibly rich city. like plants forcing their way out of cracks in concrete walls. There are beautiful, vibrant spots in almost every neighborhood despite everything. Every weekend you can explore a completely different corner. It is a city open enough to exploration to satisfy any interest. There are dozens of options to offer history to those who seek in history, innovation to those who want innovation, and entertainment to those who are looking for fun. There are negative sides too. First and foremost, it's extremely crowded. Driving around can sometimes turn into a pure torture. Finding a parking space is everyone's nightmare. Life is much more expensive compared to most cities, and unfortunately, the number of scammers is high. Which brings us to another point. Let's talk a bit about the safety side. Is it dangerous to walk the streets in Istanbul? Under normal circumstances, no. Mugging or purse snatching is rare on the streets. The number one thing you need to pay attention to is not drawing too much attention to yourself. While theft is relatively low, you must be cautious against people who might try to deceive you. In other words, you need to keep a low profile. When I say deception, it mostly happens financially. For instance, I don't trust taxi drivers at all. I don't even use them myself unless I absolutely have to. In fact, I probably haven't stepped into a taxi in 5 years. After all, public transportation is available everywhere. You can compromise a bit on comfort. Because of the traffic, subways should always be your priority. It's also wise to stick to places where the prices are clearly displayed. Instead of searching for authentic places to eat, you can dine in malls or well-known established chain restaurants, for example. They have kebab places too, and you just pay whatever the standard price is. As for the violence, although we see it a lot on the news, I think this is largely due to sheer density of the city. Still, violence exists, of course, but it mostly occurs between individuals who have developed a personal feud over time, like former spouses or among students. Random violence in the middle of the street out of nowhere is a low probability. Even so, there are no guarantees when it comes to this. Always take care to stay safe. As for the people of Istanbul and Turkey, I can say they are the kind of people who will always surprise you in both good and bad ways. The anger-stoking nature of social media deeply affects today's population. Yet there are thousands of genuinely good people living in this city. If you cross paths with a good person, your Istanbul journey can gain a completely different meaning, a whole new color. It might even reshape your life. Unconditional, pure kindness still exists in the quiet corners of this city. Hospitality towards strangers can be found on every street. Look at the people feeding the stray cats, for example. The root of this is partly a deep hunger for love and goodness. Yes, the Turkish people have lost their sense of the future to some extent, but their longing for good things continues to live on in their roots. In this city, the good and the bad lie side by side in the same bed. Sometimes good with good, sometimes bad with bad, sometimes good with bad. I mean, it's mixed, and even good and bad falling in love with each other. Still people bringing children into this world. Anyways, if your path ever crosses with Istanbul, prioritize your safety, of course, but look into people's faces and sometimes think a little more and sometimes a little less.